An asteroid is headed straight toward Earth. Initially, scientists thought it would miss us, but they've made some serious miscalculations. And now, it's headed right toward our giant blue marble. What happens next? Does this mean the end of humanity? Can we change the trajectory of the asteroid? And why might this actually happen by the year 2029? This is What If, and here's what would happen if an asteroid hits Earth this year. Scientists had thought that asteroid 99942, also known as Apophis, might hit Earth by the year 2029. Apophis was discovered in 2004, and scientists have been closely monitoring it ever since. At one point, research suggested that the asteroid had a 2.7% chance of hitting Earth. Yeah, scary, I know, but since then, new calculations predict that the asteroid will whiz by Earth at a distance of 30,000 kilometers. Now, considering that the moon is 380,000 kilometers away, this asteroid will be incredibly close. But at least it won't be hitting us. And of course, calculations can be wrong. Let's say that in this case, they are. Apophis is 340 meters in diameter. For reference, that's taller than the Eiffel Tower. We know how big Apophis is and that it's moving at about 30 kilometers per second. Get a good look at the asteroid impact, and that's because it landed somewhere in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. This is the most probable spot an asteroid would land, considering the Earth's surface is mostly water. So you might not see the impact, but you definitely notice it. Once the asteroid hit our planet, it would be as devastating as several thousand nuclear bombs going off, just with a lot less radiation. It would make a crater at the bottom of the ocean as big as a kilometer wide. And what would happen next would be even more devastating. The massive impact would create giant tsunamis that would rage worldwide. Several hours after the asteroid touches down, cities along the Pacific coast would feel Apophis's impact. The tsunamis would travel across the Pacific Ocean at jetliner speeds. Places in North and South America like California, Peru, and Chile would face towering waves. Due to the energy from the asteroid, it would likely cause waves taller than 30 meters. Waves as big as this are responsible for one of the most devastating tsunamis ever. In 2004, Southeast Asia experienced a tsunami that generated waves over 30 meters tall, killing over 230,000 people. But instead of waves like these reaching just a few countries, this would be a complete global catastrophe. Not only would the Americas experience these tsunamis, but so would Japan, Australia, and the Philippines. These places would all be devastated by the impact. Tsunamis like these would likely destroy millions of lives. So that's what would happen if an asteroid hit the ocean, but what if it made impact on land? Well, to start, the impact crater would be much more significant. We know that an asteroid's impact crater can be anywhere from 10 to 20 times the size of the asteroid itself. And now there isn't any water to soften the blow, so the diameter of the crater could be as large as 7 kilometers, with a depth of over 1 kilometer. Depending on where it lands, this asteroid could be big enough to devastate entire cities. The initial impact would send a massive shockwave that spreads for hundreds of kilometers. This could destroy entire buildings and seriously damage infrastructure. It would throw tons of dust and debris into the atmosphere. It could get so bad that it could cause an impact winter. This would be caused by a dust cloud temporarily blocking the sun, causing crops and vegetation to die out, which creates even more casualties. Something like this could last weeks or months and be an overall environmental catastrophe. This entire event, during and after, could cause millions of people to be killed, depending on where the asteroid lands. We can only hope that an asteroid collision like this would land as far away from people as possible. But now for the good news. If Apophis did somehow make an impact, it wouldn't cause a mass extinction like the Chicxulub asteroid did for the dinosaurs. The event would be incredibly traumatic and have lots of casualties, but humanity as a whole would live to see another day.
Unlike Earth, which is orbiting the Sun, there are billions of rogue planets roaming the Milky Way, not bound to any host star. If a planet doesn't belong to any star system, it's considered a rogue planet. This is an interstellar planet with a catchy name, just 20 light-years away from us. It's nearly 17,000 times the size of Earth and has a powerful magnetic field that makes the planet glow with incredible auroras. What if this massive alien planet trespassed the borders of our solar system? Would this mean the end of life here on Earth? Once the interstellar planet invaded our solar system, things could go very wrong. This rogue planet would likely be moving at hundreds of kilometers per second. If we were unlucky enough to be on a collision course with this massive alien object, the Earth would be completely demolished. But don't worry, our solar system is quite big, and the chances of the rogue planet bypassing us without a fatal collision are pretty high. Instead, our interstellar guest would be busy disturbing the orbits of all the planets in the solar system. That's because a rogue planet nearly 13 times bigger than Jupiter would have a huge gravitational impact, making other planets' orbits, including Earth's, more elliptical. And that's when the bad news begins for life here on Earth. The Earth is orbiting the Sun's relatively narrow habitable zone. Within this zone, also known as the Goldilocks zone, it's not too cold, so our water doesn't turn to ice, and not too hot, so it doesn't get vaporized, and neither do we. Just perfect. Change the Earth's orbit, and the conditions for life won't be so great. The rogue planet may not push us out of the habitable zone, but it would bring us much closer to the Sun for very short and exceptionally hot summers. Those extreme summers would be followed by long and super cold winters. Quick summers would leave us less time to grow crops. By the end of our first never-ending winter, humanity could face food shortages, even extinction. The Earth might be thrown into the next ice age. Instead of global warming, we'd be worried about global cooling. Count on things being much worse if the Earth gets knocked out of the habitable zone. At that point, the Earth would considerably cool down. All our water would freeze, and so would we. This would be the end of most life on Earth.
An estimated 100 million black holes roam our Milky Way galaxy. These objects are invisible and so very difficult to detect. Astronomers now believe they may have precisely measured the mass of an isolated black hole for the first time. After 6 years of observations, NASA's Hubble Space Telescope found evidence for a lone black hole about 5,000 light-years away, wandering through interstellar space. Black holes roaming our galaxy are born from rare, monstrous stars, less than 1,000th of the galaxy's stellar population, that are many times more massive than our Sun. These stars die in supernova explosions, their cores crushed by the star's own gravity into a black hole. Because the detonation is asymmetrical, the black hole may get a kick, sending it careening through our galaxy. Hubble detected the magnified and deflected light from a star lined up exactly behind the potential black hole as its intense gravity warps space itself. The measurements indicate the black hole weighs 7 solar masses and is traveling through space at 100,000 miles per hour. But don't worry, there's a lot of space between Earth and this roaming black hole.
Huge loops of magnetic energy arc out over the sunspots. Twisted and unstable, desperate to spew their energy, they create a magnetic bomb primed to explode.
And so if one magnetic field with stored energy sees another magnetic field, those two look at each other and say, hey, if we connect, we can get rid of a lot of energy. They do so, they reconnect, wow.
It's a huge explosion, and we call it a solar flare. And this can be equivalent to millions of nuclear weapons exploding simultaneously.
Solar flares erupt outwards into space at up to 4.5 million miles an hour, releasing massive amounts of energy.
And here's what would happen if a supernova exploded close to Earth. On average, a supernova will occur about once every 50 years in the Milky Way. Thankfully, there are no stars massive enough to become a supernova within 50 light-years of the Earth. There is, however, one binary star system within 159 light-years of Earth that could potentially put us at risk. Binary star systems are Type 1 supernovae. This happens in a tumultuous dance between two stars where matter is sucked from one star into another, typically a white dwarf. Eventually, the white dwarf explodes, resulting in an epic supernova. On the other hand, Type 2 supernovae occur when a star runs out of fuel and some of its mass flows into its core. Over time, the core will start to grow and get so heavy that it can't withstand its gravitational force, and then kablooey! The core collapses and a supernova is born. When these explosions occur, a powerful blast of radiation is spread throughout space that will kill anything within 50 light-years. To put this in perspective, our solar system is only about 2 light-years wide, so the supernova's blast would be the distance of 25 of our solar systems in a row. If a supernova occurred as close as 30 light-years away, we'd have bigger problems than a pandemic on our hands. The entire Earth could be vaporized in just a fraction of a second if the supernova was close enough. The shockwave would arrive with enough force to wipe out our entire atmosphere and even our oceans. The exploded star would grow brighter for about 3 weeks after the explosion, casting shadows even during the day. Even if life survived, the superheated gas from the supernova would emit deadly amounts of UV and gamma radiation. These rays would destroy the ozone layer, leading to the formation of nitrous oxide smog. This pretzel-shaped collection of galaxies is our universe. And it's about to collide with another universe. It might be fascinating to watch, but we should probably be worried about what's going to happen when they crash. Here's what would happen if our universe collided with another one. The only potential evidence of a universal collision that we've ever discovered is in the form of a cold spot in our universe. In 2013, the European Space Agency's Planck satellite confirmed that this area is 1.8 billion light-years across. It's much colder than the rest of space, and it seems to be missing 10,000 galaxies. At first, scientists were baffled by its existence, but now some have theorized that this spot
might be a kind of scar or bruise left from colliding with another universe. But how can we know for sure? And if this is the case, how long before it happens again? Usually, when we refer to the universe, we're talking about all space and time, including planets, stars, galaxies, and all other forms of matter and energy. So, if the universe basically means everything in existence, then logically there can only be one of them, right? Not necessarily. Some scientists believe in the concept of the multiverse. This theory states that our universe wasn't the only one that popped into existence during the Big Bang, that there's an infinite number of other universes out there too, and we just haven't found a way to see or measure them yet. If this theory is right, then it's possible that all these other universes could have grown at the same rate, at the same time, after the Big Bang. If that's the case, then they might have banged into each other as they expanded. And that brings us back to the cold spot. The cold spot is a region of our universe that's 0.00015 degrees colder than everywhere else. That might not seem like a big deal, but when the rest of the universe's temperature is so consistent, scientists have started to think it's something more than an anomaly. They think that the cold spot might be a scar left over from a collision between universes. And the crash might have moved a bit of energy out of that spot in our universe, causing the colder temperature. But what would a collision of that magnitude look like? Well, we can't say for sure, but there are some pretty cool ideas out there. According to one physicist at the University of California, if another universe came crashing into ours, it would look like a giant mirror in the sky rushing towards us, because its wall would reflect light. If this other universe collided with our own, we could inherit a whole new set of governing laws of physics. Gravity could weaken or disappear, resulting in a slew of planets escaping the gravity of their stars, sending them flying off into space at ridiculous speeds. Without gravity, stars would cease to exist. The chances of our universe colliding with another one are slim to none. This is What If, and here's what would happen if the sun exploded tomorrow. That star at the center of our solar system, that super hot ball of plasma that gives us heat and energy, well, it's a ticking time bomb. The sun is about 10 billion years old, but it's only expected to last about another 5 billion years. After that, the sun will expand, becoming a red giant. Then, it will shrink to become a white dwarf, a dying star, cooling for the next several billion years. Of course, we'll all be long gone before any of that happens, but still, can you imagine what it would be like to watch the sun blow up before your very eyes? With a name like supernova, you'd think that a solar explosion would be the most magnificent fireworks show the world has ever seen. But in reality, you likely wouldn't see anything. The sun is 150 million kilometers away from Earth, and it takes 8 minutes for light from the sun to reach us. And while that may seem super far away, in supernova terms, we don't stand a chance. For Earth to be completely safe from a supernova, we'd need to be at least 50 to 100 light years away. But the good news is that if the sun were to explode tomorrow, the resulting shockwave wouldn't be strong enough to destroy the whole Earth. Only the side facing the sun would boil away instantly. The lucky other half would experience a rise in temperature that would be 15 times hotter than the sun's current surface temperature, and permanent darkness.
And without the sun's mass keeping us in orbit, Earth would likely start floating off into space, while its remaining inhabitants desperately struggle to stay alive. Within 1,000 years, Earth's atmosphere would freeze and collapse, leaving anything left on the surface exposed to cosmic radiation and meteor impacts. Hopefully, by that point, we'd have found ourselves a new home. The good news is that if the sun were to explode, and it will eventually happen, it wouldn't happen overnight. When the sun does die, it will be a long, slow, arduous process taking place over billions of years. The sun will get hotter and brighter, and it will start to expand. During this process, it will lose its outer layers to the cosmos, leading to the creation of other stars and planets.
See that bright object in the sky? That's Andromeda, the closest major galaxy to our Milky Way and the most distant thing you can see with the naked eye. And it's racing towards us at the rate of 110 kilometers per second. Eventually, 4 billion years from now, Andromeda will merge with our Milky Way in a huge galactic collision. But what if these galaxies were to collide tomorrow? There are at least 100 billion galaxies in the observable universe, all colliding with each other. Larger galaxies merge about every 9 billion years, while smaller ones slam into each other even more often. Wait, what about dark energy? Isn't this hypothesized force pulling the universe and everything in it apart? It sure is. For nearby galaxies, though, gravity takes over. Andromeda and the Milky Way are no exception. They both contain central supermassive black holes that will eventually mesh the two star systems together. Imagine if that gigantic collision were to happen tomorrow. What would that look like? Andromeda's pretty far away. It couldn't just overcome a distance of 2.5 million light years in a single day. Let's assume that somehow the supermassive black hole in the center of the Milky Way increased its gravitational pull on Andromeda's black hole, and the big crunch happened 4 billion years earlier than expected. What's next? First, there would be no Milky Way and no Andromeda. The two spiral galaxies would become a totally different type of galaxy, an elliptical one. You can call the new galaxy Milkomeda or Milkdromeda, whichever one you prefer. Once Andromeda invaded Milky Way's personal space, the Sun and our entire solar system would be forced to the outskirts of the newly formed galaxy, 26,000 light years further away. And that's the best case scenario. In the worst case one, we might end up in a galactic Siberia, 160,000 light years away from Milkomeda's center. What about all the stars in both galaxies? Would they collide with each other? Some of them would. But even though Milky Way counts around 250 billion stars, and Andromeda has over 1 trillion of them, all these stars are separated by light years of empty space. It's unlikely that many of them would merge. Instead, they'd just get scattered into different orbits. Ooh, I forgot to mention, we invited a third galaxy to this party, the Triangulum Galaxy, or M33, a smaller satellite galaxy of Andromeda. This is shaping up to be a massive galactic mashup. For us Earthlings, this would look just incredible. The bright core of the new super galaxy would set the night sky ablaze. Eventually, the two supermassive black holes at the center of these galaxies would come so close to each other that they themselves would merge. All the gas taken up by this monstrous black hole would form a bright quasar at the center of the galaxy. Another spectacular show for us here on Earth. Too bad, in reality, our planet won't live long enough to see any of it. By the time Andromeda slams into the Milky Way, the Sun would have already turned into a red giant and swallowed up the entire Earth.
Could a black hole devour us all one day? There are millions of them out there, just waiting. And if we happened to make a black hole accidentally, well, you better fasten your seatbelts. Things are really going to suck. Literally. What would we see if we got pulled into a black hole? Could Earth orbit the Sun and a black hole? And would we survive spaghettification? This is What If, and here's what would happen if Earth were sucked into a black hole. Just 3,000 light years from Earth is a black hole visible to the naked eye. Thankfully, we're a safe distance from this stellar black hole and many others like it. There are approximately 100 million of them out there in our galaxy that we know of. They are remnants of supernovae, which occur when stars 10 to 20 times larger than our Sun collapse in on themselves. Stellar black holes are fairly common and are about 16 kilometers in diameter. And then there's the much larger competition: supermassive black holes. These have a diameter roughly the size of our solar system and a mass greater than 1 million suns combined. One of them, known as Sagittarius A, is right smack dab in the middle of our galaxy. So, how close would a black hole need to be a danger to us? Well, technically, a black hole the size of a 1 millimeter pin could destroy us if it was close enough to Earth due to its incredibly dense mass and extreme gravitational pull. Our survival all depends on whether we've surpassed the event horizon or not. You can think of this as the black hole's point of no return. Anything beyond this point would have to travel faster than light to escape. Yeah, good luck with that. If Earth got close enough, the side nearest to the black hole would begin stretching toward it. Our atmosphere would start to be vacuumed up, and then huge chunks of the Earth would rip apart and follow suit. If Earth managed to fall into the orbit of the black hole, we'd experience tidal heating. The strong, uneven gravitational pull on Earth would continuously deform the planet. This would generate a tremendous amount of internal friction, heating the Earth's core to disastrous levels. It would likely give rise to earthquakes, volcanoes, and deadly tsunamis. The trifecta of doom. Eventually, Earth would begin to stretch in a process known as spaghettification. And not in the tasty, cheesy, tomatoey way. Mamma mia!
Let's say you were a superhero and decided to fight the black hole head first. Well, your arms would be closer than your feet, causing your body to stretch out vertically and become more and more compressed. Let's hope your superpower is elasticity. For an average-sized stellar black hole, spaghettification can occur several hundred kilometers away from the event horizon. But for a supermassive black hole, physicists believe that this would happen inside the event horizon due to its size. Eventually, no matter what size it is, anything entering a black hole would be ripped into a string of individual atoms. This would happen to anything that crosses it: people, planets, stars, you name it. Unfortunately, our whole solar system would be doomed. The careful balance of the sun and our many planets would collapse, which could send them crashing into one another. And to add insult to injury, our asteroid belt would get sucked toward us. About 200 of the 552,894 asteroids we know of are more than 100 kilometers across. So, if one hits us, we'd be dead before we would turn into spaghetti. Frankly, I'm not sure which fate would be worse. All of the matter in our solar system would join the accretion disk around the black hole. As matter gets sucked into the black hole, it generates massive amounts of radiation, so even if we somehow survived all the asteroids, we'd likely die from the radiation.
The birth of the universe, the Big Bang, was over in a flash. But the death of our universe will take almost forever.
That great philosopher of the Western world, Woody Allen, once said, "Eternity is an awful long time, especially toward the end."
Figuring out how our universe will end is as dark a mystery as the Big Bang. It could collapse back in on itself, like a balloon when the air is let out.
So would the universe end with a big crunch, a reverse of the Big Bang, or was it end by expanding out and becoming cold and dark? If you wish, would it end in fire or ice, or with a bang or a whimper?
If the universe collapses, it might trigger another Big Bang. Maybe that's already happened. And we're just one in a long line of universes.
Personally, I believe in continual genesis. That is, there's a never-ending process whereby universes collide, split apart, give birth to new universes, perhaps with the different laws of physics within each universe.
Maybe this isn't the first time it's happened. Maybe it's cyclic and it goes round and round again. Eventually we'll collapse and the whole thing will start over again.
One universe or many, they all start with a Big Bang.
Ah!